The top business stories live from the Sky News City studio. Shares of Boeing fall by 9% in early trading on Wall Street following the grounding of some of its 737 MAX 9 jets. A growing sense of optimism among finance leaders as concerns over inflation and interest rates ease. Plus, Rolls-Royce Motor Cars reports another year of record sales, bolstered by recovery in China. Good afternoon. This is Business Live with me, Ian King. We begin with some breaking news not related to business. We'll be getting that to you very shortly. But in the last few minutes, we've had it confirmed that the legendary footballer Franz Beckenbauer has died. Franz Beckenbauer, of course, widely known as Der Kaiser, possibly one of the greatest footballers of all time. He began as a midfield player with 1860 Munich before parlaying over to Bayern Munich, where he spent most of his club career and where he became a central defender, one of the very few people ever. He lifted the World Cup as a player in 1974 with West Germany, and he went on to manage West Germany's 1990, Italian 90 World Cup triumph. Our sports correspondent, Rob Harris, is with me now. Rob, I mean, truly one of the biggest names of, in football history, really, and ironically, only a matter of weeks after Sir Bobby Charlton, who he played against in 1966, passed away.
Yes, and in the 1966 final, it was Bobby Charlton's job to nullify Franz Beckenbauer, something he did so successfully. That was Beckenbauer's first World Cup final, losing to England, but one of the very few Franz Beckenbauer to have won the World Cup as a player and a coach. As a player in 1974, then in 1990, the last West Germany World Cup before unification, winning the title then, also winning titles as a player and a coach with Bayern Munich, and then as a football administrator, helping to bring the World Cup to Germany in 2006, what was known as the fairy tale summer there. It did lead to various investigations actually into how that bid was won, and it did eventually lead to his own resignation from a leading position on the FIFA Council. But for many, it will be his contributions as a player and a manager that really established him as one of the greats. And via Sky in Germany, we do have a statement from the family saying it's with deep sadness that we announce that my husband and our father, Franz Beckenbauer, passed away peacefully in his sleep yesterday, Sunday, surrounded by his family. We ask that we're able to grieve in silence. So the announcement, the age of 78, Franz Beckenbauer, one of the true greats of football as a player and a manager who rose to the very top of his game. Franz Beckenbauer has died at the age of 78, according to that family statement via Sky Germany.
Rob, thanks for that. Well, we have some more breaking news for you now concerning events at Barclays. It comes, of course, from our city editor, Mark Kleiman, who joins me now. Mark, what have we got?
Yeah, that's right, Ian. Some news about cost-cutting at Barclays. I understand that Barclays is in the process of removing about 5,000 jobs from its global workforce of about 84,000. So we're talking in the order of 6 or 7% of Barclays' global workforce has been cut in recent months. Now, this is through a combination, Ian, of redundancies and job vacancies that will not now be filled. I should point out that the redundancies that form part of this cost-cutting programme have already been set in train. Now, over the last few weeks of last year, there were some reports suggesting that Barclays was going to cut up to 2,000 jobs globally. In fact, the figure is more than double that. This comes as part of a cost-cutting push by the bank's chief executive, CS Venkatakrishnan. Barclays, of course, Ian, has been at the centre of pressure from investors for many years to improve its profitability, particularly in its cost-heavy investment bank. But actually, the majority of these, or the largest proportion of these cuts, have come in Barclays' central office function, a division called BX. Now, in response to an inquiry from me today about the scale of these reductions, a Barclays spokesman told me that the bank had indeed removed approximately 5,000 people globally through 2023 as part of its ongoing efficiency program designed to simplify and reshape the business. Now, I expect that more detail will come on the nature of these cuts and further reductions that will be planned by the bank's management at its annual results when they're announced later this month. But certainly some significant cost cutting taking place at Barclays at the moment, Ian.
Very much so. Mark, thanks for that. Now, shares of Boeing have fallen sharply in early trading in New York this afternoon following the incident on Friday of an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9 in which a door plug blew out during a flight. Similarly, shares of Spirit Aerosystems, which makes fuselages for the 737 MAX 9, were off by more than 12%. Well, an Alaska Airlines flight from Oregon to California was forced to perform an emergency landing on Friday. It's now emerged that the Boeing model involved had been banned from long journeys over water by Alaska Airlines after a warning light that could have indicated a pressurisation problem lit up on 3 previous flights. 171 of Boeing's 737 MAX 9 jets were grounded at the weekend. Here's how the share price is looking right now. Boeing trading off by nearly 6.25%. So a stage of modest rally as the afternoon has gone on, but still deep in negative territory. We will have more on that in the markets segment later on this afternoon. And there's a piece by me up on the business page of the Sky News website right now, if you want to have a look at that. Today has seen a major shake-up in the world of pensions, health and benefits administration with the launch of Aper, a company that touches the lives of more than 7 million people. It was formed following the takeover last year of Mercer's UK pension administration arm and US health and benefits administration business by the private equity firm Bain Capital. It employs more than 3,500 people across the UK, the US India and Portugal. Well, joining me now is Bala Viswanathan. He's Aptia's Group Chief Executive. Bala, welcome to you. I mean, you and your chairman obviously have a big stake in this business now yourselves. Why did you want to buy it?
We believe, Ian, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Specialist administration, we believe, is a growing space in the market, significant growth opportunity that is available. And by investing in people and in technology, we believe we will be able to deliver better outcomes for our clients and therefore not just enjoy the large growth that is available in this market, but also outpace the market in itself. So that's what attracted us to this market.
What do you think you can do with this business that wasn't possible when it was owned by Mercer?
I think it's the focus. Aptia, as you rightly mentioned, is a specialist administrator. Our only lines of business are administration, and the 2 verticals that we have are pensions and health and benefits administration. So our entire focus, all of the cash flows associated with the company and the investments that we will make will all be made in this line of business alone. We will focus on talent and technology, as I mentioned earlier. So those will be the 2 key areas of focus for us. In terms of talent, one of the big challenges, for example, that's been there has been the shortage of talent in the space, the lack of people available with specialist skills. So by creating a training academy, we expect to have a strong pipeline of people coming into the business. We want to focus on professional certification in things like Pensions Management Institute. Those are things that we want to focus on. From a technology perspective, artificial intelligence is clearly an area that we want to focus on. We want to invest in AI. We're also looking at opportunities in terms of creating a native mobile app that should make it easier for most people to have access to their pension plans and start to plan that much better. So those are the kind of areas that we're focused on.
You just mentioned, obviously, finding the right sort of talent is a key challenge for you. What do you think the other potential obstacles in your way might be?
So I think one unique factor about Aptia is the fact that as an organization, every employee of Aptia will be a shareholder in this business. So the construct that we have, having a private equity-backed business, creates newer and innovative ways in terms of how we can reward people. And I think our biggest retention tool is essentially going to be the fact that everybody will act as an owner, will have a stake in the business, and therefore should be invested for the long term. So we believe our retention is going to be very strong on the back of that.
Who will you regard as your main competition?
There are a number of others that are there in the market, but I think we are quite unique in terms of the focus that we bring. We will be the only specialist administration provider focused only in terms of administration. So in some ways, we are actually creating a space in the market that hasn't existed before, a player in the market that hasn't performed the way we would be.
Well, I'm afraid we've got to leave it there. We're very tight on time this afternoon, but do hope to speak to you again in the future. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Some other business news stories for you now. And Rolls-Royce Motor Cars has reported another year of record sales, bolstered by a recovery in China and the launch of its all-electric new Spectre model. The Goodwood-based firm, which is owned by BMW, said it sold 6,032 vehicles delivered to customers in 2023. That was up 11 on 2022. Rolls said that sales growth was driven by demand for its Cullinan model, which is its first SUV, of course, with the highest number of sales in North America. Majestic, the UK's largest specialist wine retailer, said today it had enjoyed the best Christmas in its 43-year history. Majestic, which is owned by the asset management firm Fortress Investment Group, said sales during the 8 weeks to Christmas Day were up 8.1% on the same period in 2022, with Friday, the 22nd of December, its busiest ever day of trading. It said sales were boosted by its new business-to-business arm, which supplies bars and restaurants, the opening of 6 new stores, and strong demand in particular for fine wines. Denise Coates, the chief executive of Bet365, was again confirmed today as the UK's best-paid business person. Ms Coates, whose family founded and owns the business, was paid £221 million in the year to the end of March, according to accounts filed at Companies House. That was up 3.4% on the previous 12 months. She also collected half of the £100 million dividend paid by the company to its shareholders. Well, Ms Coates and her family came second in the Sunday Times tax list of 2023 of Britain's biggest taxpayers, contributing £460.2 million to the Exchequer. Now, those watching Business Live this morning will have seen a positive survey from the manufacturing sector, and we have another one this afternoon. The regular quarterly survey of chief financial officers of the UK's largest firms, carried out by the business services group Deloitte, has found they are optimistic about their prospects for their own businesses as they enter 2024. Sentiment among finance leaders has risen for the second consecutive quarter to well above average levels, with concerns over both inflation and interest rates easing. Well, joining me now for more, and this is Ian Stewart, Deloitte's chief economist. Ian, good to see you again this afternoon. Were you surprised by this?
I was. I mean, I did expect that optimism was going to rise. I was rather surprised by the magnitude of the increase, to be honest. And when you consider that the growth ground to a halt in the third quarter, the economy slowed, and the sort of pessimism about prospects for 2024, quite striking to see optimism amongst CFOs running at above average levels.
Yeah, I mean, CFOs by definition are often quite cautious folk as well. Is this all about inflation and interest rates coming down?
I think it probably is. I mean, I've been running this survey for actually 16 years, and we've seen this extraordinary focus on inflation and rates in the survey over the last couple of years. Rose right to the top of the risk list, had a pronounced effect on sentiment. And since we last did the previous survey, which was in September, we've seen inflation go from almost 7 to just over 4. We've seen a big fall in rate expectations. I think that sort of a perception of a shift in the inflation cycle has been quite a big factor in terms of this rise in optimism.
And yet there are concerns. I mean, it's a sunnier outlook, but most CFOs are still focused on managing costs. I mean, you might say that's their job.
Well, I mean, any CFO who's not concerned about costs, has got a problem. But you're right. I mean, if you look at the balance sheet strategies, if you shift from thinking about sentiment to actually how companies are running their balance sheets, the focus is on reducing costs and building up cash. And what we're seeing in this survey is that the things you associate with growth, like M&A, CapEx, hiring, they are in the backseat. And I think the story from this survey is that CFOs are positive about this year, but that is not yet translating into support for growth. So they think growth will come back, but not now. Yeah,
I mean, Jeremy Hunt will be quite disappointed by that because he's obviously just unveiled a clutch of methods aimed at boosting business investment.
I think, the cycle is everything. And when you consider the sort of swings in inflation rates, growth over the last 3 years, I mean, I think there is a perception that things are getting back on track, but that we are not out of the woods. Inflation's still high, rates are, at 20-year highs. I think CFOs just need more evidence before pressing the button on growth.
What about some of the challenges at the year ahead? I mean, labour costs are obviously a perennial bugbear, but it seems geopolitical concerns are also on the minds of these guys.
Yeah, it's quite surprising, actually. I mean, again, in the survey, what you tend to find is the things that worry CFOs about the external environment are things like inflation or energy prices. Geopolitics is the top concern. It has been for a few quarters, and I think that reflects, the hugely destabilising effect of the surge in energy prices after the invasion of Ukraine. Obviously, concerns around the Middle East and also China. So yeah, I think there is geopolitics features as the #1 concern for CFOs about their own businesses over the next 12 months.
All right, Ian. I'm sorry we've got to leave it there. We're a bit pushed for time today. Great to see you. Thank you. Still to come here on Business Live, we'll have a look at how the markets have finished up this Monday afternoon. Stay with us.
So the Taliban government have been in power since 2021. And in that time, they have built bridges and built roads and infrastructure, and the country is coming to a point of peace. But they just don't recognize women. Women's education after the 6th grade doesn't exist. Women are not allowed to go to beauty parlors, which have been closed. There are parks are closed, they can't work for NGOs. And at this current day and age, that is unacceptable. That's 20 million Afghan women who are being treated as second-class citizens, and that's what I tried to highlight with my film. Well, Afghanistan has such a unique history in the sense that in my lifetime, the country's flag has changed 19 times. It's just a chaotic time of government after government, and every single time, the women have always been victims to all these new different regimes, and they've always been impacted, and it's just enough. There is no excuse for women not to be able to study. 3,000 Afghan women were meant to join the Afghan service as doctors, but the board examinations were cancelled, and they are just at home doing nothing. As a country, we need stability and our economy to rise. We need all the help we can get. So it just doesn't make sense that this policy set forth by the Afghan government is in place. It's completely ridiculous. The world is at a time where there's just chaos and upsetting events happening everywhere. But at the same time, the Afghan women are being forgotten. And this is what I've tried to do with my film Yellow, and it's resonated so much around the world. I get messages every day from people who've seen it and feel that it's a message that needs to be told. Women are becoming invisible again. And as an Afghan myself, I can't let that happen. It's my duty as an artist and as a filmmaker to try to bring that to life.
Slight minutes, slight better. Fly Emirates. Fly better. Thank you.
Welcome back. Just a reminder of the news that we broke you at the top of the programme. The German football legend Franz Beckenbauer has died at the age of 78. In a statement, his family said he passed away peacefully in his sleep yesterday, surrounded by his family. We'll have more reaction to that story in the news hour at the top of the hour. In the meantime, Gary Lineker has tweeted, of course, former England footballer. In fact, he was in the England team that West Germany knocked out en route to their triumph in Italia 1990. And Gary Lineker has said, very sorry to hear that Franz Beckenbauer has died, one of the absolute greats of the game. Der Kaiser was the most beautiful of footballers who won it all with grace and charm, RIP. Well, the oil price has fallen sharply this afternoon following news of a rise in OPEC output and price cuts by Saudi Arabia. A barrel of Brent crude is currently changing hands at $75.78 a barrel. That is down more than 3.75% on the session. On the equity markets, European stocks have all finished in positive territory. There's the picture. Talking points this afternoon include Mercedes-Benz up 1.5% in Frankfurt after announcing a major investment programme for India. Here in London, the FTSE 100 has just about crept into positive territory at the end. There would have finished much more higher than that, but Shell and BP alone wiped 28 points from the index on the back of that. Shell also had a trading update out this morning, warning of up to $4.5 billion worth of impairments for the final 3 months of last year. You can see their BP off by just over 2.5%. Among the gainers, the aerospace engineer Melrose has finished up by nearly 4% as its share buyback programme continues to kick in. Outside the FTSE, the power generator Drax Group has finished ahead by 9.5% on reports that the UK government is set to approve a multi-billion-pound CO2 capture scheme it hopes to implement, while the trading platform CMC Markets is up 21% following a trading update. Its larger rival Plus 500 is up 8% for similar reasons. Elsewhere, the house builder Vistry has finished ahead by 8%. That's after it received a push from one of the brokers. Over on Wall Street, well, the main indices, the S&P and the Nasdaq have both opened higher. Boeing, though, is weighing heavily on the Dow, which Boeing currently off just over 6.5%. All the tech heavyweights leading Wall Street higher to the main part this afternoon. On the currency markets, well, sterling has hit a 3-week high against the euro. It's also up by 1/3 of 1% against the dollar. Single currency, meanwhile, up by 1/4 of 1% against the greenback. Joining me this afternoon is Lucy Cootes, Investment Director at JM Fin. Lucy, great to see you this afternoon. We can't avoid talking about Boeing.
No, not at all. And, you know, when you're talking about a company like Boeing and you talk about aircraft, it's about trust. And I think this, you know, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Authority, that has grounded its planes. I think there are 218 worldwide, all grounded. We don't know how long. Boeing have been here before, about 5 years ago, with an Indonesian airliner and Ethiopia. This is bad news for Boeing, but the beneficiary could well be Airbus.
Absolutely, except the problem is that Airbus will, the A320 family of jets, which is the main competitor, they've got a backlog from here to next year.
Absolutely, it's huge. So, I mean, ultimately, we have to find out what the problem was, whose fault it was, and that going forward, it won't reoccur. But it is that brand damage that I think is going to be the major concern for the management.
Yeah, I mean, the last time this happened, which was the 737 MAX 8, that was grounded for 18 months by most authorities and by 4 years in China. That cost the previous CEO his job. Is Dave Calhoun, the current CEO, under that sort of pressure?
I think could well be, because I don't know, I can't substantiate, but apparently there were warnings ahead of this accident that happened, that there was an air pressure gauge that had 3 poor readings. So it should have been examined, but obviously the process is not in place. Now, whether that's the pressure on running the aircraft, sort of Alaskan Airlines, you know, not doing its job, or we don't know. But ultimately, Boeing is carrying the can at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Alaska are the second largest customer for this particular aircraft. I mean, they must be really feeling it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the president of Emirates has said again, you know, this is again symptomatic of Boeing's sort of lack of process and safeguarding. So it's not just commentators like me questioning the brand, it's also some big buyers out there who probably are going to re-examine where they're going to order their aircraft.
Elsewhere, Lucy, we had a pretty rotten start to the new year, both in Wall Street and here in the UK. Is it a case of so goes January, so goes the year?
You're quite right. It's been, one hopes it's not déjà vu, that we're going to have another 2022, 2023. But actually, I'm welcoming the news that we've actually ended in positive territory, certainly here in the UK. I think we're entering a world of caution because interest rates are probably not going to come down as quickly as markets had expected. So I think we're probably going to see those cuts rapidly in the second half of the year, but I think we're going to have to wait until then.
Yeah, I mean, it feels as though a lot of the interest rate expectations that built up in the second half of last year have been completely unwound over the last week or so.
Yeah, and everyone's sort of sharpening their pencils and saying, oh no, it's not going to be 6 cuts in the first half of this year, it's going to be probably none, and then we'll get... So it's all managing expectations and the market's responding, but it's hugely sensitive to these sort of interest rates, where the inflation is, and why we would be cutting rates, whether it's recession or whether it's because we have inflation under control.
OK, Lucy, we have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Good to see you this afternoon.
see you.
Thank you. That's it from me. I'm back again tomorrow morning at 11:30. Hope very much to see you then. Just a reminder, there is a piece by me on Boeing right now on the business pages of the Sky News website. Have a look at that if you can. Up next, Mark Austin with the news hour and more on the passing of Franz Beckenbauer. See you tomorrow. Cheerio.